Yeah, so today we have Steve from the Positive Aging community, and he's here to give us a really wonderful presentation. And go ahead, take it away, Steve.
All right. Well, thanks, Marshall. And and I'm real excited to be here today. I recognize a few names in the audience, and so that's great. And I think the format for these ambassador meetings is just to tell you a little bit about myself and then just share a few resources. And so I'm going to try to abide by that format, but it would be great. Um, Marshall, the attendees, do they have the ability to use chat? Like they can,
Yeah, the chat
okay,
should
cool.
be available.
So if there's a question, a comment, an idea, a challenge that you're faced with that you'd like us to brainstorm on the solution, drop it into chat and we can talk about that. But before, what I think I'll do is let me just briefly share my screen. And what you should see there on the screen is uh, the website at proaging.com. And I want to just let you know a few resources here for yourself and for the people that you serve. First off, uh, you can order as many copies of Positive Aging Sourcebook as you like for yourself and the people that you're working with. Uh, um, I know the office orders a big pile, and you can pick them up there at Senior Services of Alexandria, but we can send them right to your house. And it's really easy to order right at proaging.com there on the left. But you can also just send me an email and I'll drop my contact in into chat before we're done, and we'll get those right out. Um, then when you're at proaging.com, you can see you can connect with what we call our positive aging community champions. Those are organizations that support what we're doing and can be helpful resources. But I think the most exciting thing about our platform that has developed just since the pandemic are these weekly live and interactive discussions that we run. And what you see on the left hand side of the screen is that you don't need to attend these live. So if you see that there's a discussion that you're interested in and you miss it, you can basically go and listen to the discussion. You can read the chat. You can kind of connect with the speaker if you like. And as you can see, we've got a bunch of different topics there. Also over here, there's over 400 of these discussions. So, if you're interested in the topic of solo aging, then you can click on that link and see all of our discussions on that topic. And then as I had mentioned before, these are the recordings of our live discussions. And so every week we have one or two live and interactive discussions where you can be log in, and if you've got questions or comments, you can ask them in a non-sales friendly environment. And that's why, and many times the other attendees will be just as valuable to answering your questions as the person who's on the podium. But as you can see, we got one tomorrow on simple, powerful ways to engage and connect with the person you care for. And then next week, I'm really interested in this one is Medicare's historic drug price negotiations, what you need to know. So that is a little overview of how you might navigate the positive aging community. I've got some things on tap for next year that I hope will make connecting with people even better and easier. But what I thought I would do today to kind of prime the pump our for the discussion is just share with you what I see as a few trends that are discussed regularly in our platform, share a couple of my insights, and then I'd love to answer any questions or engage you all in a conversation if you're open to it. So, number one on the list is solo aging, and I see that my good friend Annie Hall is in the audience, who started a solo aging group for Senior Services of Alexandria. And I commend her and her team on doing that, because this they're concerned about. And there's a couple of things that I want to sort of throw out to you when we're talking about solo aging, is that oftentimes we think of a solo ager might be somebody who never married, doesn't have kids, and lives alone and is starting to have health problems. But in reality, what I've seen is that we're all solo agers. Like, no matter how many friends and family we have, if we live a long, healthy life, there's a good chance we might outlive everybody that we love. And we're in a situation that seems a little bit more isolated and lonely. And so what I like about the topic of solo aging, if we're brave enough to talk about it, it really enables us to plan for the future and and connect with the people around us. So think about that. Okay. Let me go to the next one: ageism and age segregation. So, as I just told y'all, the last 35 years I've been publishing this, what some of you might think is a wonderful guide. Okay. Positive Aging Source Book. And the thing that I'm going to tell you is, this is a wonderful guide, but nobody wants anything in this book. Okay. Uh, so I don't care how beautiful your retirement community is, how wonderful your grab bars are. In general, the general public will say something like, "Oh, that's all. I know that's all important stuff, but I'm not ready for it yet." You know, anything that's age related, age segregated, what have you, in general, it's not something that most of us aspire to use. And we all know people that have lived long, healthy lives and never had a health concern and didn't have to move to an assisted living community and died in their sleep on their 95th birthday. We all know people that was their trajectory. And that's what we're all keeping our fingers crossed that it's going to be me. Okay. But the fact is, if you look around, is that none of us have a crystal ball. We can be impacted by, cognitive changes. We can be impacted by mobility changes. We can be impacted by not being able to drive our car anymore and be in a more isolating situation. And so we need to plan. We need to think about things for the future. But back to the topic that I was bringing up is age segregation. So oftentimes I will talk to somebody and I'll say, hey, we got a listing of all the senior communities in the source book. Oh, I'm not ready for any of that stuff. And in fact, I'm never moving to one of those places. I told my kids, you'll have to carry me out of my house in a pine box. Okay. Dozens of people say things like that. Um, what I like to say to folks is that I understand why you don't want to move to one of these communities. And one of the reasons is that right now you live in a building or on a street where black, white, young, old, married, straight, divorced, single live together. Okay. And now what I'm telling you is that, hey, I think it would be a good idea if you move over to this place and just live with old people. Okay. Now, this is a type of segregation. We should have no segregation in this world, but this is a type of segregation that is not it can be positive because now instead of living on a street where everybody goes to work during the day, you're living on a street where there's people that want to do stuff together and engage with you. And there's, you know, different purposeful things that you can take advantage of. And you might not need to drive a car if that's the case. If you don't want to drive anymore, you might not have to cook anymore if you don't want to cook anymore. So when I talk about ageism and age segregation, I like to bring up the situation of retirement communities that helps people. Oh, okay, that's why I have that weird feeling about these places. But the other thing that I like to remind people of is that most ageism and most ageism occurs when we look at ourselves in the mirror. That we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say something like, "Oh, I'm too old," or "Oh, I don't look good anymore." These are poisonous words, and it's important to remember that as we navigate life, this is just a different chapter of life. I mean, and we look differently and we act differently at all different stages of our life, but ultimately, we're all individuals. Okay, so I'm kind of babbling on that one. I hope I got my point through. Okay, now number three on my list is something that I love to talk about, and that is what to do with all of our stuff. Okay. So there's two things. We're all aging. Okay. Every single one of us, 5 year olds and 105-year-olds, and we all have stuff. Okay. And most of us don't know what the heck to do with our stuff. And this is another really hot topic in our community. And I'm just going to give you a couple of sort of thoughts that are out there is that the first is I love introducing people to the concept of Swedish death cleaning. I know it sounds like something that a hospice might provide, but what Swedish death cleaning is, it's a concept that says, I got all this stuff, okay, and I'm alive right now. Why don't I figure out who's going to get what and give away some of it now so I can see people enjoying my stuff while I'm alive? Instead of the experience that a lot of us have had to go through, where your loved one passes away and we come into their home and we try to figure out where everything goes. And 9 out of 10 times, I've helped so many of my friends, with their cleaning out their parents' house. And it's like, oh, I can't get rid of this. Mom loved the armoire. And what do? They rent a public storage container, and they're paying, $1,000 a month to hold all the stuff that they feel too guilty to get rid of. And that could have been prevented if mom had talked about the meaning of her stuff, the armoire, what have you, and what she would want to have happen to that uh when she passes away or before. So a couple of things is think about just having conversations with people around you and your stuff. And one great way that you can do this is just taking pictures or videos of your stuff. And I'll give a quick example of a realtor that when she lists a home for somebody that's lived in their home for over 30 years, she, you know, turns on her iPhone and she walks through the home and has before any ounce of furniture has been moved, she has the homeowner talk about all the stuff in the home, the dining room table and all the wonderful meals that we had, or the swing set that's still in the backyard that hasn't been used in 50 years, and all the memories of that. And now this is recorded. The memories are recorded. And when we move if we have to downsize and move to another home, we can open up that book, we can watch that video and remember it. But also generations that may have never met you before can watch that video or see, oh wow, that's what that I love that item of furniture or what have you. Okay. Um, so now my next bullet point is planning ahead or responding to a crisis. Okay. So here's the thing. Actually, I commend all of you for just being senior ambassadors, being associated with Senior Service Alexandria, logging on to this discussion today. You are actually planning ahead just by being brave enough to listen to what I'm saying. So, for example, when I started talking about solo aging, I mean, there's likely somebody that could have been on this call that's like, oh, I don't want to listen to anything like that. I don't want to think about being alone and older. So, click, I'm out of here. That is what concerns me more than anything. There's a lot of people out there. I talk to their loved ones every day of the week who sort of stick their head in the sand, and it's just like, well, I'm just going to hope that I got enough money, that somebody takes care of me, this, that, and the other. And so planning ahead doesn't necessarily need to be like logging into some software or having volumes of notes. It can mean that. I think the most important ingredient for planning ahead is just thinking about different things and having conversations with people around you on, hey, do you ever think about what would happen if you didn't drive anymore? Okay. So now I'm gonna give you a couple of things to just think about in sort of this planning ahead, because over the last few years, I've really had lots of conversations and they fall into several buckets. The first is, I've brought it up several times. What would you do if you don't want to drive anymore or you can't drive? Okay. So there's lots of choices out there. There's Uber, there's Lyft, there's ride sharing programs, there's public transportation. But let me tell you, the time to experiment with those types of options is not when we're in the middle of a bunch of healthcare crises that take us away from driving our car. So one thing that I suggest to folks is like, hey, maybe try to live without your car for 3 days. See what that's like. Um, and and it may open your eyes to, wow, maybe I need to live in a different neighborhood, or, maybe, hey, this isn't so bad. Maybe I'll get rid of my car right now. So driving, that's a big one. The next one is mobility. Um, think about what would happen mobility doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a wheelchair. Mobility could just be difficulty getting up and down stairs or difficulty walking. What would life be like in your current environment if you were faced with some mobility? Now, something that a lot of Northern Virginia people discover is that they go to the hospital, they're discharged, they've got a mobility issue, and holy cow, I didn't realize how many stairs to get to my bedroom every night, and then to get to the bathroom and this, that, and the other. And oftentimes, when do they want to make changes to make that more accessible? It's when they're in the middle of this healthcare crisis. So think about, we got driving, we got no mobility, and then the other one is the next one is neighborhood connections. It's sort of like, how connected are you to your neighbors and the people that live where you live? Do you find it to be easy to make connections, if that's something that gives you energy? And so one of the things that I find with a lot of folks that I coach through aging in place solutions is that oftentimes when I bring this topic up, they'll talk about the memories of they were really connected with their neighbors 20 years ago, and they were such fond memories that they still feel like they're connected in the neighborhood. But then with an inventory, it's like, gosh, I should get to know more people around here, or let me look at this or join a club or a village. Okay. And then the last one, I hate to even talk about this one, but because it's horrible. It's cognitive impairment, it's dementia. And the is to imagine what would life be like if you had dementia in your current environment. Like, who would look out after you? How would you live? And like, none of us have a crystal ball. None of us can guarantee we're not going to get dementia. And quite frankly, many of us, because we're living so healthy, we're living longer, and that increases the risk of getting dementia. But here's something that many people will say to their family members is like, don't ever take me out of this home. I want to stay here for the rest of my life. I don't care. I don't want to go to the home. This, that, and the other. And I think that a lot of times people say that and they don't think about, well, what if I had dementia? What if this environment, no matter how adapted it was not safe for me? Like, then would I consider moving to another location? And the reason I bring this up is I talk to so many kids that come into town because mom has a dementia diagnosis, but they promised mom she would never leave the home. And it's kind of hard to do that when you're an adult child in California and your mom has dementia in Alexandria. So, um, and then the last bullet point that I have on here, and then hopefully we can have a little dialogue if there's any time left, is affordability. Is that I this breaks my heart too, just like dementia, is that I kind of divide the world of senior living into three groups. You've got folks that have assets and wealth, okay? And I, you could be a millionaire here in the Washington area and feel like you can't afford some of this senior living stuff, okay? So you've got that on one side of the let's call it a teeter totter. And then on the other side, you have people that are impoverished or that qualify for subsidies of some sort. Now, the interesting thing is on both sides of this teeter totter here, there are resources for both of these groups. The folks that have assets, they've got a lot of choice, okay? And then on the other side, there's actually a lot of resources for people that are below certain income and wealth lines. The important thing over here is getting on waiting lists as soon as possible. Okay. But the group that concerns me when I talk about affordability is the group in the middle, which I call the caught between the cracks group, or it's sometimes called the forgotten middle, because the developers are building for people with means. Government is trying to take care of people that are impoverished. Who's taking care of all of us that did the right thing in the middle? And I wish I had my magic wand. I'm seeing my pen here. Let's pretend it's a magic wand. It doesn't work to solve this problem, okay? If I could wave it and solve this problem, I would. But my solution that I give to everyone in this area, the only one that I can think of, is building your own personal village. Okay. And your personal village, included in your personal village, should be Senior Services of Alexandria. There are so many amazing volunteers that can help people get through life without writing a big check. Okay. I know there's great programs over at SSA and with the villages, but the I want you to think about, those of you who have raised children or seen, your neighbors and your friends with children. One of the things when we're raising our kids, we're not writing a check every time we needed somebody to watch our kids. Okay. Like every now and then you got a big date and you can't find anybody to help you out, and you pay this babysitter to spend the night and watch your kids so you can have a good time. But most of the time, you got friends, you got neighbors, you got relatives that's like, hey, I'll watch your kid. Oh, that's awesome. Go out and have a good time. And you're not writing a check. And I want you to think about the aging world in the same way, especially if affordability is an issue. And so let's use the example of home health care. So some of you may realize, like a home health care aide in general, I think the rate is around $35 an hour now. Okay. Now, rarely does somebody need 7 days a week of 24/7 home health care, but oftentimes it could be 3 or 4 days a week where they want to have a home health care aide, or their family wants a home health care aide to come in and help out. Well, now, what if you could, instead of paying for somebody to come into somebody's home to help care for them for 4 days a week, what if we could get friends, family, neighbors, and other interested folks, maybe even technology, to help out two of those 4 days? So now we're only paying for 2 days of care a week. We have saved ourselves and extended our budget thousands of dollars by doing that. But to do that, it's cultivating this network of support in advance. Now, the way that I tell people to do this is, don't go out and pick up the phone and say, hey, someday I might have dementia. Will you take care of me? Okay. The way that I recommend doing this is calling one of your buddies, or you talk to your neighbor, talking across the fence. And it's like, do you ever, do you ever think about, like, if something would happen, who would take care of you? Listen, uh, I want you to know that as long as I'm healthy, you can call me and depend on me to help you out. So instead of sort of going in for the ask, hey, if someday I'm in a wheelchair, would you take me to my doctor's appointments? It's sort of like, if someday, if you were in a wheelchair, I'll help you out. So now, when you start with that dialogue, if that person responds and says, wow, that is a really thankful, I've been thinking about this, and I want you to know I would do the same for you. You've identified somebody in your network that's open to a dialogue now. Now, if you offer this to somebody and they're like, why are you talking to me about that? That's never going to happen to me, and my kids are going to do that for me. Don't talk about depressing things like that to me. You realize this could still be your best friend, but you're not going to have a deep conversation like this with them. I'll tell you another, and I promise this is going to be my last point, and then Marshall, let's just open things up. There's a really great film. It's just been added to PBS.com and to the PBS stations. It's called Wine, Women, and Dementia, and it's a wonderful film. It's funny and it's sad and it's got lots of great emotion in it. And the and and basically it's about this woman who wrote a blog when she was taking care of her mom with dementia, and she developed all these followers, and her mom passed away, and she got in an RV and she traveled around the country having wine and talking about caregiving for somebody with dementia to people all over the country. And one of the women that's featured on in the documentary said, when my dad got this diagnosis of dementia, I typed up a letter that explained to everybody what was going on in my dad's life. And I sent it to everybody, all my dad's friends, contacts, people that I never met, all of my friends, everybody in my orbit. And I sent this out. And she said, I was surprised at how many people came to support me and my dad in this journey. But the big surprise is the people that came forward to support us. They were people I barely knew. And the people that I thought would sort of come to my rescue never even responded to what I was saying. And so, anyways, I know that's a long-winded sort of talk about affordability there, but I hope those 5 trends give you some ideas, especially in your roles as ambassadors. And And Marshall, if we have any time
Yeah,
left,
that was a
um,
great talk. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or write them in the chat. We can stay on for, I want to respect everybody's time, but we can stay on for a few more minutes. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
could just say, this is going to be recorded, right?
yes.
And will I be able to send it to someone who's not a senior, connected with senior services?
Yeah, you'll get the
Okay,
link
good.
and the,
Because I tell you, just
good.
earlier today, I ran into a woman I haven't seen for ages, and she was saying exactly what Steve just said. Oh, I'm going to a retirement place. Oh, I don't want to go with any of those old people. Oh, no, I've lived in my house for years and I love my house. And I mean, absolutely what you were saying, Steve. And I said to her, let me just give you one piece of advice. You think you'll stay there, but this is now. It's all right until it isn't. And you've got nothing to lose by going to a retirement place, taking a look, putting down a refundable deposit to get on the list so that should anything happen, and it could,
Yeah,
you're not going to have to wait 3 or 5 years to get in there or go wherever they can take you and you have no
mm,
choice. I don't think she was going to do anything about it, but I tried so hard to. She was absolutely one of those people. And her
yeah.
husband died a couple of years ago. She's on her own in a big house, I think. And she's looks reasonably healthy, but I mean, anything could happen tomorrow.
Oh, that can change on a dime. And I
Yeah,
think like this in the same way that I talk about, hey, one of the reasons why you might view a senior community as negative is because of the age segregation. The other thing that we have to respect and sort of be aware of is we're all different.
yeah.
But a lot of people's personal identity is really tied to their home. Now,
Hmm.
the interesting thing in the Washington, D.C. area, we have lots of military and State Department people. Those folks, they move every 3 years. They like their homes, but, you know,
Yeah,
for
I get
some
it.
people, and especially if like your hobby is taking care of your home
Yeah,
and
yeah. Hmm.
working in the yard, but these are things we can work around. And I like how
Yeah,
you suggested by taking a tour of a senior community that's near your house,
right.
it's, it doesn't mean you're going to move in there, but
Exactly,
man,
exactly.
what if something happened?
And I said to her, I've looked at 17 different communities, and I have a deposit down in a couple, and I've got a deposit on one that is yet to be built. Hopefully, they'll finally going to get approval to do it, but it's going to be a brand new community. And I said to her, I think I've met a lot of the people who are on the list to go there. We charter club members, as we're called, and I think they're the same mindset as I am. I'm not going there to die. I'm going there to start a new life for the
Yeah.
last X number of years. And, we'll all grow old together, but by that time we'll have made friends. And there's something sort of upbeat about it. It's not depressing. People are excited about going there.
Well,
And, you know,
yeah.
but but then there's, the financial side is something you've got to think about too. And there's all sorts of, as you say, everyone is different. But I just hope that I put some little seeds of something in her brain.
One of
Um,
the tips along with what you're talking about that I give to people is I say, hey, when you're looking at these places, I want you to pretend that you're not going to an old folks home, but
right,
you're touring colleges. Because
right,
see, college kids, going to college is a positive experience. And college kids, they don't care about the square footage of their dorm room. They
right.
know they're not even going to be in their dorm room. Okay. And and when college kids go to a campus, they look at the other students, like you're
Yeah,
talking about the Founders Club. Those are the other students.
right.
But here's the thing that makes a senior living community 100 times better than any college campus. On college campus, you have a bunch of people that don't know anything about life.
Yeah.
They are a bunch of clueless 18-year-olds with all of their self-esteem issues and this, that, and the other, just because they haven't been walking this planet long enough. At a retirement
Very
community,
true.
you've got a bunch of 85-year-olds that have really done some amazing things. They've
Absolutely.
had loss, they've had successes, they've lived interesting lives. And so yeah. Now one trend that's out there can't happen quick enough, but some college campuses are building retirement communities on their campuses because
Really?
I heard that.
yeah, and think about it.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah,
brilliant idea.
the employment problems that you've got in these senior communities, now you got students that are working
What a brilliant
in the
idea.
community.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Are
Uh,
there any other questions? I want to respect everyone's time and make sure we're.
oh, yeah, and I'm gonna drop my contact in here. But Marshall, she can get that to you as well.
Mhm.
But the and as some of the folks, I recognize some of the names. I totally do not mind anybody calling me to just brainstorm. And I'm gonna put my calendar link on in there too, because you can literally just you can schedule a meeting right on my calendar and we can talk about whatever it is that's you know that you're concerned about because this is also where I get a lot of my ideas on how I can create additional content or help people. So anyways, this was great. So
Thank you,
thank
Steve.
you.
Yeah.
You
Thank you so
really
much.
do so much good work for us. It's really nice of you.
You bet.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for coming, and this will go out next Monday if you want to send it to anybody.
I
And
will.
Yeah, and send me
appreciate.
a copy of it as well,
Yeah,
and I'll put it
absolutely.
on our website. Okay.
Absolutely. So,
Thank you,
Okay.
Steve.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thank you
Samantha.
Samantha.
all.
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Samantha.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.